What's up, average viewers? Miss Marvel has arrived to Disney Plus. Is it a hit or is it a miss Marvel? Stick around to find out. You guys, this show is good. And I don't just mean it's not bad, I mean it's actually pretty dang good. The intro sequence is really creative and a fun introduction to our character and her passions and interests, even though I'm pretty sure this whole sequence is CGI. Regardless, it's a great way to meet Kamala and understand the type of person she is. Then we jump right into meeting the family and get a dose of their personalities and the family dynamics that might be going on. Obviously, we have a very diverse cast and I think it's awesome. What's even better is that Marvel was able to show off this diversity without being so in your face about it. It doesn't draw attention to itself, it just exists like it does in the real world. Yes, these people are Pakistani American, but they're New Jerseyan. They're people, they're students, friends, parents. Yes, some aspects of the culture are different, and those differences are best shown off when you're not patting yourself on the back for making social progress. Does that make any sense? Anyways, I love the editing in the show. You have some really quick cuts during transitions that keep mundane things exciting, but the show is not over edited. Many times the camera is doing the talking. It's moving with our characters during long tracking shots. It tells an interesting story by itself. It doesn't need constant cuts or new angles. It lets the story and the actors speak for themselves. Speaking of the actors, I think everyone pulls off a really great performance in this. I was worried that Kamala would be overacted, like be some crazy, overly hyper and enthusiastic teenager, but she plays it really well, just laid back and normal. Everyone felt like a normal person in the show, and it was really refreshing. It was also refreshing when we meet Bruno, because it's nice to see a guy and a girl friendship that doesn't have any romantic undertones. These guys are just friends. I don't get any hint that one likes the other. Well, except one scene where Bruno kind of looks at her lips after praising her. I don't know. I really hope they don't try and force a relationship on these characters. It would feel out of place. I love the cartoon elements mixed with reality. Not only is it a creative way to show us what the characters are talking about, but it also gives us entry into Kamala's mind and how it works and how she sees the world. She sees the world as a canvas for art and expression and doodling and even her fandom. And so seeing that happen on screen, especially in this sequence where they're biking through the city and you can see the graffiti change based on what they're talking about, is just so creative and fun and took something that could have been boring and made it one of the best sequences. And you guys, these shots are not easy. You have to motion track, you have to animate these things by hand and then composite it into real world footage and make it look as if it were actually spray paint on brick. I tell you how difficult it is to highlight again that the show is really being cared for, that it wasn't rushed out in a cookie cutter formula. They're really trying to do something special. I will say it's a little bit annoying to see school portrayed on screen. It's like every Marvel character is just bullied all the time and it's always like verbal or physical abuse, or I guess like classic bullying, public humiliation type stuff. It's a cliche that's overused and just doesn't really reflect reality anymore. In reality, everyone kind of keeps to their own cliques in school and everyone kind of has a place now, even the nerds. The bullying that happens is over the internet and text. So it would have been interesting to see Kamala not bullied in the cliche way, but maybe she's reading some hurtful comments on one of her Instagram posts or finds out that some people were making fun of her in a group chat. That would make this aspect of the show feel less contrived. But also I'm like, why does every Marvel superhero origin have to be about a kid who's bullied? Liking superheroes isn't uncool anymore. It's not nerdy, it's mainstream. I don't know. The other thing about this show is that it's funny, which I feel like Marvel hasn't nailed in any of their TV shows yet.
Sorry, Mr. Wilson.
No, Mr. Wilson was my father. My name is Gabe. His name was also Gabe, so doesn't super work.
But there were just some lines that were clever and witty and made you laugh without feeling out of character or out of tone. This show has a lot of style. If I had to define it, I would say that the style of the show is to take things that could have been boring and makes them fun and interesting in a very Mitchell's versus the Machines way. Like this same meeting with the counselor. It could have been a boring lecture about her future, but they do interesting camera work to make it a fun and an entertaining sequence. There really isn't a scene in this show that doesn't have a really nice flair of personal style and creativity and keeps you engaged the whole time. Another example is this scene where she plops onto the couch and the camera follows her upside down. Those shots take work and time and planning and they slow down production, but you can tell that they have the right people on this project that care more about the art and doing unique things rather than just pumping out the next show for Marvel. And this show feels like it has a great creative team who were expressing themselves through the show, even if it was for the Marvel overlord Kevin Feige. It's refreshing to see Kamala actually care about her family and her heritage and her parents and what they think. She's worried about offending them or hurting them. She doesn't want to rebel, but she's made her life pursuit about Avengers Con in this moment. I guess what I'm saying is that it's nice that the show doesn't take sides. It's not obvious that they're saying her parents are wrong or they have radical ideas and they're being tyrannical. You can see mutual respect between Kamala and her parents. Maybe I'm not explaining myself super well, so you might disagree with me, but yeah, the dynamic between child and parent just feels different than the average rebellious teenager storyline. Oh, you guys, how cool was this texting sequence? I mean, texting is something that has been portrayed on screen for a while now because it's a part of our lives, but this is the most creative use I've seen of it so far. Again, you guys, immense planning and some complicated VFX shots, some custom-made practical effects like those neon signs, more evidence that the people working on the show took a lot of care in making it. Another thing that's the mark of talented filmmaking is when they show us things rather than tell us, like have a character say a line that provides exposition. We know that Kamala is struggling with body image, not because anyone told us, but because we see her apprehensive to change in the locker room and not really think she's beautiful when she's looking in the mirror. Again, I thought it was cool that Marvel didn't go for the easy option, which is I'm Pakistani and that's what all my problems are about. Instead, she's having normal teenager problems like body image issues, fitting in, not passing a driver's test, and learning how to balance growing up and wanting freedom while still living under your parents' roof. Okay, am I weird for thinking this, but when she got the package with the bangle in it, I was like, please don't be the reason she gets her powers. And of course it was. I was just sort of like, wow, some ancient relic showed up from the mail and it has ancient powers. How unique. I don't know. If I'm being honest, it feels like every part of the show was creative and enjoyable, except the superpower stuff. I don't know much about Miss Marvel in the comics, and maybe she does get her powers from this relic, but maybe not, and it just felt out of place because of how cliche it is in this otherwise creative show. Last creative scene I'll highlight is the breakout plan sequence. You start off with a great shot from behind the lockers and then a really cool fantasy sequence with cartoon elements that lead into cool transitions back into the real world where Kamala is explaining the plan. And these cartoon elements aren't just aesthetic and fun, they actually come back into play later as a useful storytelling device to show us where the plan is going wrong and how things are already spiraling out of control from the get-go. Avengers Con is super fun because it's like a pretty meta break the fourth wall type of thing, but it makes complete sense. I mean, we have fandoms about fictional superheroes, but this is their world of non-fiction, and they would have Comic-Con too. Again, my least favorite part about the sequence was the superpower reveal with the bangle, and I think it's because her motivation is unclear regarding the bangle. It seems really out of place for her to go out of her way to fish it out of the attic and then bring it to the convention. It would have made more sense if there was some setup, like Kamala saying, how am I going to win the cosplay competition when everyone is going to make the same costume? And maybe Bruno is like, well, then make it your own. Find something unique. Then she gets the bracelet in the mail and thinks it's just what she needs for her costume, but her mom says to put it in the attic. So she sneaks it out because it's the perfect touch for her costume. Just that added setup would make the line, my personal self-expression, feel a bit more natural. Also, this Ant-Man head rolls way too far with too much momentum and destructive power for way too long. But I'm not a physicist, so take that as you will. Alright, you guys, I guess in conclusion, I really liked the show. It felt like a nice break from the Marvel mold of creating shows. It got to be creative and unique, but for whatever reason, the superhero aspects were my least favorite and by far the most cliched and least original parts of the show. This was a great first episode, but that makes me super apprehensive about whether I'll like the rest of the show because obviously it's heading in that direction, and I'm worried that the more superhero they bring into it, the less unique it will feel. But I really hope they can pull off that style for the rest of the series. I'm not rooting for it to fail. Okay, you guys, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Did you like the show as much as I did, or did you think that all the 2D elements were just a surface level facade to cover up another generic Marvel show? Keep it civil and not racist in the comments. If you want to direct hate at someone, do it at my stupid face and my opinions. Click that like, subscribe, and that bell to hear more about movies and TV from an average guy. As always, Berks, thanks for watching, and the rest of you, stay average.